Today we're talking about something very interesting I think most people will be inquisitive about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, do we ice or do we not ice, and which one is better? So there's been a debate of the relevance around injury management, recovery, around using ice, and many of you might have heard of the acronym RICE, Rest, Ice, Compression, Elevation, and that's been around for a good...
Yeah, well, 1978, Dr. Merkel actually invented this, and he himself has actually retracted the statement in 2014. And why he himself retracted the statement was because there's a physiological response, which is part of our healing process, that ice will slow down. So because ice slows down the inflammatory markers coming to the tissue, these are the actual inflammatory markers that help the tissue to heal. So we know now that if you slow too much of that down, it actually will slow your healing down. And also really interesting, Dr. Pete, and for you guys out there, in the research it's been shown now that anti-inflammatory medication also slows the healing rate down. That's in some good literature, which I think most people aren't aware of that. So using ice too much or anti-inflammatory medication will actually slow your healing rate down. So I guess that begs the question really, Dr. Pete, what do we do about it then instead of anti-inflammatory medication and
Well, that's a great question, Dr. Jeremy. There's another acronym that's come out now, and due to that retraction, it's called Peace and Love. So Dr. Jeremy and I are going to run through what does peace and love mean. So
when I first read this, I thought someone was having a joke, but it actually is in the research, peace and love. So yeah, Peter will tell you.
So the first one, P, is for protection. So protecting against activities that might cause pain, especially if you've got a current injury, making sure you've got some awareness around that.
And E is the next part of the acronym, elevation. So we still elevate to gently reduce the swelling, because too much swelling will cause damage as well. So elevation reduces some of the swelling in a more natural way.
Yeah, and avoid anti-inflammatories, like Dr. Jeremy said. That interferes with the whole macrophage process, or identifying areas that need to be taken in and out of cells. And yeah, so definitely avoid that.
Perfect. And the next one, C, compression. So similar, most people have heard compression, elastic bandage or tape to help reduce some of that swelling as well, but at the same time let the body's natural processes continue to go forward.
Yeah. E, education. So your body knows best. So avoid unnecessary treatments and medical investigations, and let the body do what it's meant to do. And that's
yeah, wonderful.
The power that made the body healed the body.
Absolutely, true. And there's definitely time and place for intervention when it's a huge injury, but as much as we can, want to let the body do what it needs to do. And the next bit's the love part, right? So load. Let your body guide you to return to natural activities, because movement and healing, you're going to get a better healing response than not using that joint. Because if we use the joint or the ligament or the muscle while it's healing within pain-free range, discomfort's okay, not pain. Pain-free range will actually heal stronger.
Yeah, for sure, Dr. Jeremy. Really good information there. And O, as part of love, is optimization. So prepare your brain. It's a big part of chiropractic, preparing that brain. So your attitude, being positive and confident in that recovery process is seen to really help people recover from injury. And yeah,
absolutely. Even in research. So in vascularization is the next one. Vascularization just literally means get blood back to the area. And that's, again, just move in a pain-free range with that joint. Do some general cardio activities in your pain-free range. Like if it's an ankle, you probably want to jump in the pool and do some swimming, or walk in the pool, or run up and down the pool. So a low weight-bearing activity through the joint, but you've got to move the joint so you get fresh blood flow in and out, and that massively helps the joint heal a lot quicker as well and stronger.
Yeah, and E, the last part of love. So exercise, increasing stability, proprioception, that's the one we look at here in the practice sometimes. But proprioception is your joint sense. So it's almost like mini brains at your joint sites that tell us information before we go and do something, like walking off a curb and knowing that your muscles, ligaments, tendons need to contract to protect our body, and so we don't go like a floppy sponge.
Absolutely, and that's what exercise helps return. Yeah. Great. So if you want to read that acronym, Peace and Love, in more detail, jump on. These blogs are always on our website, but you can re-listen to this live, of course. And then, do we throw the ice packs out, Dr. Pete? What do we do there?
We don't throw them out. They're definitely there as a to help with swelling, to get some mobility back, especially mainly in the acute phases of care when you have an acute injury.
Yeah, like really big injuries.
Yeah.
I think they say to still use them, and I think they're handy too. Instead of throwing them out, what we were discussing this earlier. Before we jump on this live, is that you can put them in the fridge, so it gives you some pain relief, but it's not going to be stop the inflammation as great as if it was frozen, like a freeze pack. So probably just pop them in your fridge. That's what we want to use them for.
Absolutely, Dr. Jeremy.
Thanks, Dr. Pete.
That's all.